Well, two things that you in the audience heard Phil mention. One is, he's not a thing, he's a person, Robert Kiyosaki. I just want to give a quick background of our man Robert. One, of course, he's the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad. He's also the developer of a game called Cash Flow. And for those of you who haven't played it yet, it also changed my life and many of those around me. It's a phenomenal game. It changes your perspective when it comes to the world of investing, and just a wonderful game. And Robert also, by the way, recently co-authored a book with Donald Trump. I don't think I need an introduction for him. So that's a little bit about Robert. But just going back to the game for a second. Well, actually, while we have the book up here, too. Oh, and by the way, some of you don't know, we're also filming this. So behind us in this grand fashion is the Cash Flow board game. Again, just a big smile on my face. But that's sitting here behind me. And this video will be on our site later on this week. But Phil just held up the book, Why We Want You to Be Rich, by Donald Trump and Robert Kiyosaki. And we'll get into that book a little bit in detail in just a sec. But I want to go back to the Cash Flow game. Tell me about your experience when you first played that game, with your mom and your family.
Yeah, well, I had mentioned that I was a struggling C student in school, and I didn't really understand why. I'm a smart guy. I can understand concepts very well. I'm good with relationships. But the challenge was that I wasn't using my skills in school, and I didn't understand that. So coming out of school, I was struggling with who I was and what my talents really were. And it was actually through playing the game that I got to realize that there's a lot more to life than just book study. Mm-hmm. That is through experience. And it was experiencing the game that I realized that I could use all of my talents, which is building relationships, which is understanding numbers. All of those pieces I could utilize in this game of business and investing. And it was the game that allowed me to practice that. So I could practice, negotiating with the person across the table. I could practice running the numbers, understanding my own personal financial statement. That game truly helped me shift that emotion and that energy, because the game, because you are experiencing it, is bringing up that emotion. And so I was able to overcome a lot of the emotions and the fears relating to investing in business through playing that game.
Yeah, and through this call, ladies and gentlemen, I usually don't do too much promotion in these calls, but I do want to give you the opportunity. I've invested in all these products, and at least give you the opportunity to know where these products are if you want to get any of them. The Cash Flow game you can find at the richdad.com website.
That's correct.
Best place to get that book.
You bet.
Get that game. So, all right, let's go in for a second to this new book that Robert and Donald co-authored together. Tell us a little bit about that book.
Well, I've actually had that question asked to me a few times, and what I think the most interesting story for me personally was why these two gentlemen got together, right? And Robert has always idolized Donald. He talks about Donald and Warren Buffett in almost all of his books. In everything that we do, really spawns back to what Robert has seen and learned from Donald Trump over the years. And so for Robert, that was here's Donald. He's interested in potentially doing something with the Rich Dad Company. And what was interesting, though, is that the reason that this book actually spawned, because this book is written about the middle class, and not the idea of what the middle class is, but what the middle class is going to become less of, which is it's not going to exist anymore. What's happening is that the poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer, and that gap in between is really it's becoming less and less and less. So that middle class is starting. We're starting to see it slip away. And what spawned this book was actually Donald Trump's book, The America We Deserve. And in fact, it's one of the ones that wasn't publicized that much. It didn't have that many legs like The Art of the Deal and some of his other ones. But it was truly about how America should operate. And so they wanted to create a book where they could give back, where they could show that two people that are in the same space truly do think the same way. And so what's interesting about this book is that there will be a specific topic, and Robert will write about it, and then Donald will write about his thoughts on it. And it's always interesting as you look at the book, you'll see that on a particular topic, Robert will have, say, 6 or 7 pages, where Donald may have half a page. And it's really interesting to see the differences in mindset and philosophies between a millionaire and a billionaire. And it's really just the way they look at everything versus they do have the same philosophies. They worry about the same things, and that worry about that gap between the poor and the rich.
So in this book, essentially, you have each of their perspective on each different topic that comes out chapter to chapter to chapter.
That's correct.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that book, too, is available on investorteams.com for those of you who want to just click right on it. It'll take you right over to Amazon to buy that book. So let's get back a little bit to Robert himself. Tell us, how has your relationship with Robert as a mentor been for you?
That's been it has been a roller coaster. I mean, I have to say I have been absolutely blessed to have been around somebody like Robert. But Robert, first and foremost, is a Marine. And while when you get to be around him a lot, you get to see that Marine come out a little bit more than the average bear. And for me, some of my greatest lessons are because Robert is hardest on me. Being Sharon's son in an organization that's co-owned by Robert, his wife Kim, and Sharon, the pressure's on. And for Robert truly takes the opportunity and the time to utilize me as an example. I've certainly had to learn how to be very humble, check my ego at the door. There have been many seminars where he'll bring me on stage and talk about some of the stories that I've, some of my stories about how the mistakes that I've made, or some of the nicknames that he's created for me, like Dumb and Dumber, and some of the other fun marks like that. But truly, in the end, Robert has given me one of the greatest gifts, and that is that he's pushed me past any limit that I thought I could ever go. And you cannot. I can't thank him enough or give enough praise to that. As painful as it's been to have been in this environment, in this space, and to have learned what I've been able to learn.
As much as Robert is giving you a hard time about those mistakes, I'm sure he's reliving the mistakes that he made at your age.
You better believe it. And it normally, every mistake I've made, he'll follow with his own personal story of how it was for him.
Like a true mentor would.
Absolutely.
That's great.